collaborative tools too that we've been using with the KM division, because I'm chair of KM for SLA, and a few things that my students have been exploring with e-learning. So those are going to be sort of just some throw-ins, offshoots of the Google Apps. The top right, I put my Vitae into this little tag cloud, and I sort of felt like, you know, it's not really what I want to represent myself. So it made me start thinking, you know, how do I grow my own competencies? You know, sure, I'm technology, but I always think that I'm also focused on building communities and building kind of a way to collaborate and discuss online. And you don't see hardly any of that, I mean, in my Vitae. So I want to kind of set, you know, today's kind of a framework, because I think sometimes the issue is people are like, well, how do you learn what you learn? And so I have a framework I wanted to share, and also, you know, the idea of managing change. And that's really what the heartache that some of the people have experienced at Geographic. Google Apps, just switching to Google Apps doesn't mean that people are going to love you even though you switch over to Google Apps. You're still going to have a big continuum. It really doesn't matter if it's Lotus Notes, Google Apps, Microsoft Exchange. People are going to cry, and then people are going to say, oh, I love it. You know, you're going to have a big continuum no matter what you do. I personally love it because I think it allows more a 24/7 type mentality, and it does foster some growth in the organization, easy access to develop collaborative communities. And so I sort of want to go through that, and then the idea of just how, you know, you kind of plan, you do it. So I'm going to show how I've immersed myself in Google Apps through various other ways, and then teach. And I think that that's actually what's really strengthened my learning, is that I teach. And so all the skills that I think information professionals have, just because I'm in IT, my skills still translate really well in the IT world. So they've put me on some really tricky people to train, so it's been challenging, but it's also been kind of exciting because I'm working with people I haven't actually worked with at all at the organization. I've been there 25 years as of May, so for 25 years I haven't worked with these people who are senior executives to some of our top dogs, so it's been kind of exciting to kind of learn more about the organization from a different perspective that I hadn't been able to see in the libraries. So this framework came out of the action framework that Dave Snowden talks about, and also Patrick Lamb sent me this little booklet about how to grow your competencies in KM. Since I'm chair of KM, we're going to hold a virtual conversation with Patrick Lamb on May 3rd. But I started thinking about, you know, in his framework, he talks about, you know, how there's explicit information out there. And many of you are very good at giving that explicit information to people. Then all of us have definable skills. Sometimes we don't always know our skills until we start kind of using them in different, through our different careers. I think what's the trickiest skill is this heuristic, the learned habits or behaviors, and how you unlearn things so you can learn new habits and behavior. That's what is the hardest thing to really change, because you get stuck sort of in a set model, and how to kind of break out of that model. The tacit knowledge is what you gain from your experiences, from work and from different relationships you have. So that's what you want to grow. Once you can kind of break and figure out what you have to unlearn and learn new, then you're going to start gaining new experiences. And, you know, like I was telling Mary, just because I left the libraries, there's still, and sometimes, a feeling of guilt. And yet, I'm so excited about being in the position I'm in, because I see that I've grown a lot in avenues I wouldn't have known, you know. And it's been tricky because I had to sort of walk on eggshells at points, coming from the libraries and kind of having issues, you know, between IT and libraries at times. But you know, they hired me for a reason. They thought I was competent to, you know, work on this. Actually, this was probably one of the projects they had wanted me to work on. And then, you know, we all have the natural talents. The other main thing, I think that, you know, two corner pieces is the social capital, building those relationships. And they don't have to be relationships that are online. They can be physical relationships. And just from working with a lot of different groups through SLA, I've built those relationships. And then you have people you can kind of fall back on, that you can kind of count on, that you know how to work with them. Like when Marie and I worked on the 23 things, we both have different sides of the technology. Like I'm a big wiki fan and she's a big blog fan. So, we're good, I don't want to say bedfellows, but we're good bedfellows because we have complementary skills but different tools. So, you start kind of learning people's strengths and you can kind of ask their advice about things. So, just the importance of building that framework. And then this was posted by Rebecca Jones on Dysart and Jones blog. And how you manage change. That we all have these big visions, but sometimes when we hit against the barriers, it's hard for us to kind of move forward because we get kind of stuck on the barrier and we're like, oh, I just want to move forward. But one of the things that we can do is what's core. So some of what I hope to share with you today is things I did in order to build my skills so that I could keep moving forward, even if we hit up against barriers at Geographic. And then what were those critical success factors? Maybe not everything you'll have to do all at once. You can let some barriers exist, but you could still allow for some things, what are the core things to be critical in realizing what you want to do or move forward, and then what are those strategies and tactics. So I sort of liked this visual. So Google Apps, how many people are Gmail, Google type? So Google Apps is what Google is calling an umbrella of applications that they're marketing as a package to organizations. It is similar to Gmail and all the consumer-based products, but Google has taken a curve in the road and is essentially marketing Google Apps to educational organizations, to nonprofits, to regular organizations. Although Geographic is a nonprofit, we also have a for-profit side. And in order to get better service from Google, we actually have what they call the Premier Edition. So we pay $50 per license per user. It helps us, too, to be able to charge back to every division for each license. We have more access to Google's APIs, so we can do stuff on the back end. But the standard edition is sometimes good enough. But it includes, through the Premier Edition, the Standard Edition, the Educational Edition, they all have a dashboard. You just don't have quite as many features in the free version as you do in the paid-for version. Catholic University now has all their students on Google Apps, and they have access to mail, calendar, and documents. They didn't turn on the Sites feature to my, alarm, because that's part of the core, product. That's really a great feature. But it includes then messaging, mail, calendar, chat, and it includes collaboration, document, groups, sites. It also has videos, video component. So depending on what account you take out, depends on how much service you have. For the Premier version, you get 50 gigabytes of email storage. For the standard education, you get 7 gigabytes, which is the same as Gmail. You get 7 gigabytes. So